follow up here.
Live right there.
Right. I think we're live. Welcome to Talking Commercial. I am Dusty Bates. I'm here with Lawrence and our
Lawrence
guest,
King.
Lauren. Today we're going to talk a bit about managing properties for multifamily owners and also for brokers, and have some questions for Lauren. Drop this here. Not sure if that worked.
Yeah, there we go. There we go.
Hey, everybody. Yeah, I'm Dusty. I'm a multifamily broker in Northern California. Lawrence King.
Real estate, residential realtor in Los Angeles, California. Dusty, we got a special guest on today. We got a very special guest on.
Full disclosure, she might be related to me. She's my wife. And it's really cool to be able to do. I do commercial real estate. I do a lot of multifamily and retail type stuff. And it's really cool that she does multifamily management. Lauren, tell us a little bit about what you do.
All right, you guys can hear me okay, correct?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, as Dusty said, I'm Lauren Bates. I have been in property management in one capacity or another for over 10 years now. Starting at a landscaping company, you rub elbows with a lot of property management people, and that naturally led to me entering into the HOA property management world, which was not my cup of tea. So did not do that long, and ultimately found my career in multifamily apartment management. Started as a property manager at a solo site of 110 apartment homes in Citrus Heights, California, and that exponentially blew up. Began overseeing many properties with the same clients, ultimately then overseeing entire portfolios, becoming the regional manager for Northern and Southern California. And now I have been upgraded to just transitions director for the entire company, which spans East Coast to West Coast. So my job and my passion and what I do is onboarding and offboarding acquisitions, leading dispositions, and assisting in setting up properties for success across the United States. So that's pretty much my spiel.
So wait. So Lauren, you skipped over the fact you're a mother. How many kids do you have?
I have two.
2 kids.
2 babies. Yeah.
Boy and a girl?
Mackenzie and Corbin. Yeah. So Mackenzie's going to be 5 in October, and Corbin's going to be 2 next month. So yeah, mother of 2.
So we got a duel of commercial. Everybody's in commercial in this house except for the kids, right?
Yeah. They're in training. They're in training. Yeah.
So Lauren, you gave us a little bit about you. We understand you're a mother. We just had Mother's Day just passed. In your opinion, what are some of the qualities or skills that a successful property manager should possess in their business?
You have to be a self-starter. I think that's the biggest key that really determines success. You have to be the kind of person that when you're presented with a problem, you find a solution. As you know, in property management, whenever you're dealing with individuals, especially in multifamily housing, every day is a new challenge. Every day there's some kind of emergency that may be every day to you as the property manager, but you're talking about someone's home, not their investment, not their business. It's their home. So it brings a whole nother level of urgency that's paired with the need to be able to speak compassionately and confidently in order to not only address problems quickly, but to calm people down. And you also have to be detail-oriented and have follow through. So I would say being a self-starter is the base foundation to all of those key things that you need in order to be a successful property manager and multifamily manager professional in general, because those base skills span across talking to clients, talking to investors, the whole 9 yards.
So when you say a self-starter, do you have any examples of like where being a self-starter really contributed to your skills that you've dealt with in property management?
Yeah, COVID. So obviously leading into it, before there were all the regulations, all of the financial assistance programs, all of the amazing things that really threw a giant wrench in the gear of not only multifamily property managers, but really any real estate person. Moment that started happening, as a self-starter, I was the regional at the time, we had to make a game plan on how to engage with residents across all of our properties, not only the ones that have habitually been delinquent that we just anticipated would further exacerbate their situation, but make communication to everyone and make it clear that we would be able to do payment plans, that we're here at the office for them, come talk to us, really extending that olive branch, showing compassion and showing that we were there as their property managers to help them through this scary time financially and health-wise. You had to be ahead of the game when it came to doing health protocols, making people comfortable to come see you. Be ahead of the game when it came to how are you going to lease if someone's not going to come into your office?
Yeah, 100%.
Getting virtual tours set up. You have to like really be ahead of the game when you get thrown pandemics like that, like any kind of big thing. So I would say that is the biggest example and not one you usually get thrown into. Knock on wood. I mean,
hopefully that's done.
Hopefully we don't have very many more of those situations.
I'm knocking on wood.
Yeah.
Definitely. I don't want any more COVID situations. No more breakouts.
I remember that there were some times where there were some credits or ways for tenants to ease what's going on, especially during COVID. And you, by being proactive, you helped them sign up for these credits and all these things, right? You know, they're not going to do it themselves.
Yeah, we definitely, being a self-starter, sometimes you need to hand over and be like, help me help you. I have your solution. Your solution is here. It's mutually beneficial. Work with me, please. Right. And so when a lot of those programs came out, it could be just out of fear. I don't know. People have their normal lives going on, and the whole bureaucracies of those things can be very intimidating if you're not used to the systems that are set up. So I actually had myself and my teams complete 90% of the paperwork for them as much as we could within our legal boundaries, and then deliver them a proposal and say, hey, we completed this paperwork for you. This is how much financial assistance we are trying to help apply on your behalf. We need you to sign, and then you're going to get a link requesting the base information, like proof you are who you are, some bank statements, an employee statement, and that way we're able to get the state or the government to give you money to then pay us, so that you keep a roof over your head and you don't run the risk of eventually, when this all ends, having the possibility of an eviction on your record.
Right. And some tenants, I'm assuming, were hesitant or may have been hesitant to provide bank statements or anything as far as their income to you, right? So how do you build that trust? I mean, with a lot of these tenants, do they know you directly, or were they face to face with you, or is it something over the phone?
Well, as the regional, some of them knew me just because I had worked in the portfolio for so long. But I would encourage my teams to go door knocking. I mean, that was difficult during COVID. You had to wear masks. You had to maintain a certain distance. We would call, we would email, we would say hi. We would encourage them to come in within the safety protocols and talk to them directly. Now, being that they've already provided bank statements and they provide pay stubs in order to be screened and ultimately get the housing at our location, I think that kind of fixed the majority or handled the majority of the reluctancy to do that. But in complete honesty, people were also taking advantage of the climate. And even if the people that weren't wanting to participate were the ones that were like, "Ooh, I actually am getting paid. I'm just not paying you."
My rent, yeah, my
But
living
then
expenses.
that still was in our benefit, because
Right.
then if we as landlords showed that we were doing our due diligence to get them the assistance they needed and they failed on their part, they were the first ones to meet the judge after all of the protections were lifted.
Now, are all the protections lifted at this point?
For the most part, yeah. I mean, courts are backed up. And
Right.
obviously, there are still a lot of protections. People are hesitant to push through on things, but our company has been successfully, and it is slowly ramped up, performing unlawful detainers, is what we call them, eviction orders, to get those residents out.
Out.
Um, the second step, when people wouldn't do that, obviously, it was most beneficial for our clients, was to offer options to vacate in lieu of us moving forward with those charges, and forgiveness of particular debts. We found that sometimes saying, if you leave by this date, we won't come after you for this amount of money, actually saved the property money, because it's considered a vacancy. So it's a vacancy and a utility vacancy cost that you're shouldering in property management if someone refuses to pay. So sometimes it's
Right.
just better to wipe their debt to get them out.
And even if they're in a year lease, that they're a brand new tenant, like 3 months in, and this thing just happened out of nowhere, you guys still prefer that they vacate at that time. I
It
mean,
was
if they're
almost
not
better
paying.
if they were brand new. If they were brand new, it'd be almost like just having an
You-
additional 60 days worth of vacancy on your books. So
right.
yeah, the issues were the people that dragged it out for the years that it happened. But yeah, we were very successful, saved hundreds of thousands of dollars, being proactive, being self-starters, finding the solutions and presenting the solutions to the residents themselves. And in turn, the clients going, hey, we got this money for you by doing it for the residents and them signing the paperwork. So
Wow.
you got to think outside of the box when you get
Yeah.
hit with situations like that.
And I mean, you had to think fast, because that thing, COVID, happened out of nowhere. I mean, it
Yes.
just came on fast, especially in California. I think we had a lot of restrictions pretty quickly.
Oh yeah, a lot of restrictions made it for a very interesting couple years, and we're still getting out of it.
Right. Yeah, that's what I think. Yeah. So, Dusty, were you going to make a statement or a question right there?
Well, I was going to ask a bit about, so with COVID, you had all that stuff that you had to handle on the fly. And how did you handle, I think, if I remember right, you were proactive with communicating with tenants on how they can not just apply for these credits, but also work with them ongoing, like an eviction or a non-retainer there. You had some issues kind of navigating that, but you also were proactive with working with them on moving out if they needed to. Is that correct?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It was a labor of love, if you will, beginning to end. Trying to work in the best interest of, not, first of all, your client, because it's your job to protect the asset. It's your
Right.
job to ensure the success of the property, and that's delinquency, but also dealing with the human factor, and the human factor were the tenants. And so helping them and holding their hand and just having clear, thorough communication and solid follow through, and letting someone feel heard, and letting someone feel like they're not forgotten about when the world is on fire, literally and figuratively, was key in getting a lot of people to cooperate. Now, mind you, there's always those outliers in every property, but we had notable success across our portfolio.
That's awesome. And so, do you technically go into an office, or do you work from home?
I work remotely.
Remotely.
Now I do. But previously, obviously, I would be on the sites quite a bit. When I was a regional, I would have to float between Southern and Northern California. So travel. But now, as the transitions director, I have the privilege of working remotely with the occasional travel for big projects in need of additional assistance.
So you're literally going across, I mean, when you have to, Northern and Southern, everything in between.
Oh, that was when I was a regional. Right now, I
Right.
go all across the United States.
Oh yeah, that's right. It's West Coast and East Coast. Wow.
Yeah. So like best example I could have is that a couple months back, I was in Houston 1 week for a conference, meeting with all the area leads, making the game plan for 2023 onward. And then the following week, I was in Maryland for a week for a property acquisition. So helping getting boots on ground, getting everything situated because they needed some additional assistance there. So they sent me in.
How many, I don't remember, how many units does your company have roughly?
Oh goodness, it grows exponentially every day.
Putting you on the spot.
20,000 doors, I believe.
20,000 doors.
Right now, but that could, I mean, we're expecting another 50 before the end of the year this year with all the purchases that are on the docket.
Another 50 on top of the 20,000?
We're booming. There's a reason why I need an entire department.
So one thing that would be a concern is we're talking about vacancy and problems there. How do you avoid vacancy and prevent that from happening?
You avoid vacancy by literally hitting A through Z when it comes to marketing. You have to make sure that your ILS feeds and your websites are on point. You have to have your thumb on the pulse of the surrounding markets, be on top of what the current concessions are across your portfolio, what your competitors are doing, and to establish. When I was site level and when I was a regional, I would establish relationships with neighboring properties and management entities and establish an open line of communication. So I had great success, especially in the harder times, of reaching out to I call them sister properties, but other properties that were not within our management portfolio and saying, hey, we're experiencing this issue. Are you experiencing the same? And they would either confirm or deny and then just move on to say, I can't sell my 2-bedroom, 1-bath right now to save my life. And they go, actually, I'm out of 2-bedroom, 1-baths. Do you want me to refer inquiries over to you? And I'd go, yeah, sure. What are you having a hard time selling? And you just establish those relationships. So I would say from drip campaigns to snail mail to establishing relationships with your competitors. Just because you're competitors doesn't mean you can't be working together professionally. There's enough business out there for everybody. Right. So that's my biggest thing. People think, oh, I can't go over there. I can't shop that property. I can't take coffee to Susie over at that neighboring property. Like, no, you can. You absolutely can. And if you establish those relationships and you establish trust, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. It helps with generating traffic when really everyone's struggling if you're able to establish that line of communication. Like drip campaigns I used to go and print flyers, those little pull tab flyers, and go post them across the college campus. They would take them down every other day, but then I'd be able to go back and get a coffee, get my steps in, and post again. Yeah. And you resident retention programs such as referral programs, giving people concessions for bringing their family and friends in. Renewals. The amount of money you can save from renewing a resident versus getting a new one is astronomical. So if you're able to give the A+ service needed to retain and establish a sense of value of staying at the property, maintaining another year's lease with, mind you, increases. Like everyone knows and anticipates increases in costs. You have to make it worthwhile to the resident to shoulder those costs. So whether that is a renewal gift or an incentive such as sign a lease early, enter in a raffle for a flat screen TV, so on and so forth. It's all worth it. It's the little things that keep people.
Yeah, and I come from the property management background as well, and just not just that, but owning rental properties. I was always told, never give a gift at the end of the year, or never give a gift at the end of, for people to renew their lease, right? I like that fact. I like to give something for, hey, here's a little bit of incentive for re-signing your lease, right? I'm not on the commercial side that large, but it's good to hear someone else that's been in the business for a while say, hey, some type of incentive that I'm going to include, small TV, Starbucks gift card, stuff like that. Tenants really appreciate.
Well, yeah, you can also do a gift, and another monetary thing that you can do that actually works well for the investors is doing tiered pricing. You don't have to have flat rate pricing. You can do tiered pricing and say, hey, if you sign, and it depended upon state. A lot of people nowadays don't like signing a lease over, or clients don't like having people sign a lease over 12 months, but some states require that option upon renewal.
Okay.
You're able to say, hey, sign a 12-month lease. This will be your rate. If you decide to sign a 9-month lease, this will be your rate. 6 months, 3 months, month to month. And so that way they're incentivized to sign a longer term lease because they have a lower rate locked in versus going for a shorter term. And then also making sure you have solid lease break clauses in there keeps people from breaking their leases more often than not.
So that kind of speaks to what I've, Lawrence, me and you have spoken a bit about this, where if you have someone on the lease, when it rolls month to month, the increase is a certain amount for the month to month rate within that lease. Right. And then you offer them ahead of time, what Lauren's talking about, where if you want to sign a 6, 9, 12-month lease, it's going to not be that painful as that month to month rate. It's going to be better. And so they get excited about that and they want to sign and release the space.
Yeah. And that's my question. Like, when you obviously have an Excel spreadsheet or CRM that's notifying you when each tenant's lease is about to be up. When is the perfect and appropriate amount of time that you give a tenant that their 1-year lease is about to end, that incentive? When do you reach out to them? 3 months, 2 months before it ends?
Multi-housing has a lot of regulations there. Okay. And they're state and sometimes even county or city enforced. There's a lot of regulations on multi-housing versus private. Okay. So for instance, in Montgomery, Montgomery County, Maryland, you have to give 3 months notice ahead of time of any rent increase. So they have to start this communication 3 months in advance. In California, it's 60 days to be safe. So it really depends on the regulations for where your particular property is at. But you kind of want to keep communications going and keep engagement going with your tenants all of the time. And that's to keep an open line of communication, engage their happiness, engage issues. And you can do that through resident events. It depends on the size of your property. Right. I realize a lot of your followers might only have a 6-unit or a 4-plex, or I don't know, the span of which I'm dealing with properties that are 700 units, 400 units, a lot bigger. We have some smaller ones. It just depends. But having events and ways to engage and having the site team reach out to people and just really hear them. Mm-hmm. It's amazing what getting a food truck to come out and provide complimentary, a complimentary set of tacos for every resident that shows up, and just sitting there and hearing the organic communication about your property and what is vexing them about the property, and how you can improve. Like, a lot of that stuff is back of house ways to get the dirt on how you can get someone to stay.
You're not showing up to these events, are you?
Oh, I used to.
Okay. So you used to. I would think that most like property managers or regionals, they would hate to show up to those type of things, especially if you have some tenants that's pretty much
You always have the tenant for
you
every
always
property.
have those tenants, and I know like at those events like holiday parties or food truck events and stuff like that, those tenants show up and those tenants make sure they find you.
Okay.
Right?
Every time, and I can honestly tell you a handful of their names right off the top of my head because
Right
I'll
off-
never forget them. You never forget them. They
Right.
die with you. They
Yep.
stay with you forever. But it's important. Those kind of things are important for retention. And it's small, simple things. You really don't have to overthink a lot of the things that keep people around.
Right. And then so in property management or in your space, dealing with East Coast all the way to the West Coast, or West Coast to the East Coast, I should say, because you're on the West Coast. When dealing with that, that's a lot of stress. I know it's not easy, right? I know the coffee is a great factor.
Maybe it's not coffee. No,
it is 1:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. With that, how do you juggle the work life and the family time? How do you juggle that? And have you made adjustments along the way of changing, going up in your position? Have you made those adjustments and have they been seamless?
Oh, not seamless. Not at all. I think that is something every individual, mother or not, for instance, Dusty also works from home,
Right.
And juggling the work life with children at home and school schedules and wanting to be hands-on with them and be attentive, but you have your computer and your workstation like right there, always looking at you, is something that he and I have had to learn to set boundaries on and hold each other accountable for. It's never easy, but you have to remember the work will always be there. And if you finish every single thing in your inbox, guess what? You're going to wake up tomorrow and there's going to be more emails in your inbox. So setting solid guidelines on when your hard stop is and giving yourself the grace of realizing that you work to live. You do not live to work.
100%.
Key. That is key. Is it easy? No. Am I the first one to break my own rule? Yes. Every time.
Me too.
but I have
rules all the time.
I'm just there to keep my feet on the ground.
Right. and that's good because you guys have that dynamic where you guys can say, hey, you can go back and forth like that. So that's pretty good. I appreciate this time. I know you're very busy. I appreciate this information you've provided to us. Dusty, do you have any more questions for Lauren Bates?
No, I think we covered everything we were hoping to. That's going to be really insightful for people, whether they own property or they're brokering property. I think it's going to be really helpful, what we covered, because I know Lauren sees oftentimes, like even people who own multi-million-dollar properties are making mistakes that could be easily avoided. I guess that might be the last question: is what kind of mistakes do you see people who own properties make that they could very easily avoid?
Great question.
Oh goodness, that's a
great question.
Heavy one. I would say on two different levels. On standard operations, like once a property is stabilized and you just have it going through normal day-to-day operations, taking rent, doing work orders, so on and so forth, is lack of follow-through. That's the biggest thing.
Lack of follow-through.
Lack of follow-through. So, and that applies to every tier within, whether or not it's the tenant, lack of tenant follow-through, lack of client follow-through, lack of staff follow-through. You just kind of put a communication out there and it gets lost. It falls through the cracks. A maintenance order is put in. It was marked as completed, but did anyone follow through and follow up with the tenant to see if it was completed to their satisfaction? Along those lines, work got done on the property. did the vendor actually fulfill the entire scope of that work? Was there active communication and management of that project? It's follow through. That's the biggest thing that I think dominoes into the biggest issues that clients and property managers face in their day to day. And it's not stuff that you intend to have happen. It's stuff that all of a sudden, months down the road, you're having to invest a lot of hours into figuring out what went wrong when thorough follow through could have prevented it from happening in the first place. When it comes to go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
When it comes to new acquisitions, because I've done a lot of my work are repositions, and that's when the client purchases a property with the intent of value add to increase its value, and then ultimately selling it again for a profit to then reinvest and reinvest and reinvest.
So they have an exit strategy.
Yes. Right. I would say with those is biting off more than you can chew right off the bat. Okay. More often than not with my clients there, I precaution that, hey, you're taking on this new property. There's going to automatically be a drop in vacancy. Whenever there's a new turnover, drop in vacancy tends to occur. There's an exodus and then ultimate influx of residents. You have to take into account that your profits are not going to be what may have been booked when you guys were going through due diligence and reviewing the T12s.
See. Okay.
On top of that, can factor that in. Don't go in gung-ho, guns blazing, renovating every unit you can get your hand on top of doing amenity upgrades.
That's me.
Like let it trickle. Let it trickle out. Take its time. You go in, you establish yourself. You decide on a budget how many renovations per month you're going to do. Not every renovation needs to be a renovation. You really only want to renovate, my apologies, the turds that come up that really need work, and let your revenue grow to then tackle the bigger projects that actually bring new traffic in.
Got it.
An apartment might be cool, but you know what people really, really like? They really, really like to have locker package systems because their packages keep getting stolen off their front porches. They really like having a pool that is to code and doesn't have any pump filter issues. They like to have those things. So it'd be strategically planning where you put your money while realizing the money's not going to flow as you anticipated from prior ownership into your hands.
Okay. So don't rush in and try to redo everything.
And then go, we have no money. I've spent all the money. What do I do?
That's what my wife is for, to pump the brakes on me, because I want to redo everything. As soon as I acquire the property, I want to redo everything. Yeah. Right?
Why is our NOI so bad? Well, you spent all the money.
that could be definitely a costly move for anyone. I'm sorry if I'm freezing here. Yeah, that's a great point, Lauren. You helped me out with that one.
If you need advice, I'm here. Ask my husband. I tend to give it whether you want it or not.
This is awesome. Let me ask you this, Lauren. Are you on social media anywhere?
Not professionally.
Okay.
No, not yet. No, I like to kind of keep that line of separation, but Dusty's
100%.
twisting my arm one way. So maybe soon.
He's going to get you on there soon enough.
Yeah.
I appreciate this time. This was awesome. This is good info for me to look at. And a slap in the face about biting off more than you can chew. I don't want to say it too loud because my wife is here. Yeah, but definitely I appreciate this time, Lauren. And as always, Dusty, it's a pleasure. This is a great dynamic that you guys have going. And I appreciate this. This is good info, good knowledge right here.
Thank you for having me. I've really enjoyed it.
You're always welcome. And you can hear some of our conversations on these calls, and you always chime in. So thank you for chiming in, giving us input and all that good stuff. We appreciate it.
Oh, always here. Let me know if you have any other questions. I'd love to come again.
Definitely.
Thank
Dusty,
you.
I appreciate you, man. This was a good one. We need to get her on a lot more.
Yeah, she's got a lot she's been doing this for years, and everything I told her, every job she's had has prepared her for what she's doing right now. Like
Right
she ran a landscape company that just did commercial properties, multifamily properties. Like
Okay.
she hit everything she's done has really just expanded her knowledge. It's incredible.
That is awesome. Dusty, you're not sleeping on the couch tonight, I take it.
Nope, not.
Good one, man. All right. So we'll see you guys. We're going to be back next week, next Thursday, same time, 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I'm Lawrence King with Building Top Agents. It's my co-host,
Dusty Bates, commercial broker. We're everywhere at Talk CRE.
Yes, sir. We'll be back next week, same time,
All right.
same channel. Thank you, Lauren.
Bye.